Hello, that's a quick revision for how to master the anatomy for the final exam outline for thorax. Great. So to begin with, the first thing we're going to cover is the intercostal muscles. The intercostal muscles occupy the intercostal space between each two consecutive ribs. Okay, and the first muscle we're going to talk about is that cute one. Here's that muscle. Okay, that muscle, I can see that it extends from the lower border of the rib above, going all the way downwards and forwards. It's going forwards towards the sternum, and then it's going downwards, and it's not continuous that side. I can see that that's the external intercostal. Okay, so the external let me write it in a better manner. Okay, that's terrible. Great. Okay, that's the external intercostal. Okay, so the external intercostal muscle takes origin from the lower border of the rib above to the upper border of the rib below. It extends downwards and forwards. It starts from the tubercle of the rib to the costochondral junction. If that's the cartilage, that's the continuation as the rib, and that's the costochondral junction where it ends. Great. Okay, so it extends from the tubercle of the rib behind to the costochondral junction for anterior, and it continues here at the anterior as the anterior intercostal membrane. That anterior intercostal membrane, as we can see, is like it's just like no fibers, no muscular fibers here. It's just a membrane. Okay, so again, external intercostal muscle from the lower border of the rib above to the upper border of the rib below, going downwards and forwards, from the tubercle of the rib posterior to the costochondral junction anterior. It's supplied by the intercostal nerves and its collaterals. By the way, all three of them, 1, 2, 3, all of them are supplied by the intercostal nerve and its collateral branch, and this is something that we wouldn't really repeat. So the action is done before it actually starts. It's supplied by the intercostal nerve and its collateral branch. Great. Okay, so that's concerning the first muscle. One thing about that muscle, let me choose a cool color here. Okay, it goes all the way that way. Great. So that's the insertion, and that's the origin. For the action, we pull the insertion towards the origin. So if we pull that insertion towards the origin, it goes that way. So it elevates the thorax. So it works as elevators. So it's an inspiratory muscle. Great. Okay. So again, it's an inspiratory muscle. It works as elevator for the ribs, so it can increase the volume of the thorax for inspiration. Okay. That's the external intercostal. The second muscle, as we can see it here, extends downwards too, but it's going backwards. Okay, we cannot see a membrane here. No membrane. Okay. That muscle is called the internal intercostal. Okay, so the internal intercostal muscle extends downwards and backwards from the sternum to the angle of the rib posterior. Okay, it goes downwards and backwards. So basically, it's also supplied by the intercostal nerve, and it's originated from something here called the costal groove. Great, and it goes to the upper border of the rib below, as we can see here. Great, so from the costal groove to the upper border of the rib below, costal groove to the upper border of the rib below, downwards and backwards, from the sternum to the angle of the rib, and when it reaches the angle of the rib, it continues here as the that's the sternum, angle of the rib continues here as the posterior intercostal membrane. Great. The other muscle that we're gonna cover quickly, and then we're gonna cover the action one time. That's the innermost intercostal. Oh yeah. The innermost intercostal also goes downwards and backwards, as we can see it here. But one thing about it, that it begins from the mid-axillary line, okay, backwards to the angle of the rib. So you're going to tell me, hello, why did you draw it anteriorly if it goes backwards? Because, dude, I cannot draw 3D here. I just wanted you to imagine that that part is posteriorly, but I needed to draw the fibers, okay? but it's posterior, okay, from the mid-axillary line, okay, backwards to the angle of the rib. Okay, so considering those two muscles, the action is depression of the thorax and their expiratory muscle. And by the way, their expiratory muscle for forced expiration. Great. So again, the internal intercostal muscle originates from the costal groove, innermost intercostal from the costal groove, and both go to insert into the upper border of the rib below. Great. Both fibers are downwards and backwards, downwards and backwards, downwards and backwards. Let's remove this, okay? Goes downwards and backwards. That one begins from the sternum, continuing to the angle of the rib, because it continues that way, and continues as the posterior intercostal membrane. That one begins mid-axillary line. Consider that's the anterior part. It's posterior, and continues till the angle of the rib. Great. Both of them from the costal groove to the upper border of the rib below, and all of them are innervated by the intercostal nerve, and it's collateral. The external intercostal from the lower border of the rib above to the upper border of the rib below, downwards and forwards. It's inspiratory muscle as it increases the volume of the thorax and elevates the ribs. Great. All of these muscle prevents. I'm sorry for the terrible handwriting. Okay. Let me change the color. They prevent the space, intercostal of course, from being sucked inwards during expiration and puffed outwards during inspiration. Great. So again, the external intercostal is a rib elevator. Innermost and internal, they're rib depressors. They prevent the thorax from being sucked out inwards or puffed outwards during inspiration and expiration. This is concerning the intercostal muscles for the final written exam. Best of luck.